Dmitri Bloodvessel had spent the last 587 years avoiding two things with equal vigor: daylight and garlic. The first was easy, just an occupational hazard of being a vampire. The second, however, had grown into a humiliating nightmare once he decided to become a chef. After all, what self-respecting culinary artist recoiled from the mere whiff of aioli? The shame gnawed at him, if shame could gnaw on someone who technically did the gnawing himself. He had worked his crimson cape off climbing the ranks at Nocturnelle, Transylvania's only Michelin Moon star restaurant. The moon indicated that it opened strictly from dusk till dawn. Yet despite his impeccable knife skills, his colleagues whispered that Dmitri avoided the G word the same way teenagers avoided phone calls from unknown numbers. When the Eternal Epicurean Gala announced that this year's theme was a celebration of garlic, Dmitri's dead heart sank to the soles of his patent leather boots. The gala wasn't just any competition. It was the gastronomic Super Bowl, World Cup, and seasonal finale of every reality cooking show combined. Winners received a gold-plated cloche, a lifetime supply of artisanal sea salt, and, crucially, bragging rights for the next century. "If I can't even compete," Dmitri muttered to his reflection, a pale, translucent outline only he could see, "why bother calling myself a chef?" His reflection shrugged. Or maybe it was just the drapes moving in the breeze. Enough, he decided right then. He would conquer his fear. He would create the greatest garlic dish known to both the living and the undead. "How hard can it be?" he asked the empty kitchen. A garlic bulb rolled off the storage shelf in response, landing with a taunting thunk. Step 1. Research. Dmitri scuttled to the Nocturnelle library, a candlelit hall of dusty tomes and decorative cobwebs. Decorative because the real spiders had unionized and demanded hazard pay. He went straight for the classic text. Count Spatula's Compendium of Aromatic Annihilation, flipping to the garlic chapter. The page was missing, apparently ripped out by some previous undead reader who'd also hoped to skip his problems. Typical. Plan B, consult a human. Dmitri's best and only human friend was Lucy Caraway, a food scientist with a doctorate in allium chemistry and a side hustle selling garlic-infused perfume to vampire hunters. Lucy met him after sunset in her lab, wearing a hazmat suit he suspected she'd borrowed from an outbreak movie. "I need your help," Dmitri said, squinting through the plexiglass partition. "Teach me to cook garlic without, well, disintegrating." Lucy's hazel eyes lit up. "At last, my favorite undead test subject wants to embrace the stink?" She clapped. "I have so many experiments." She started by presenting him with training cloves, roasted for 8 hours until they resembled onyx gemstones. "Black garlic," she explained. "Fermentation converts allicin into sweet, syrupy compounds. Milder flavor, less chemically aggressive." Dmitri poked one with a gloved fingertip. No sizzling, no smoke, no sudden urge to burst into bat form. Encouraged, he sucked in a cautious breath. The scent was molasses and balsamic, not hellfire. He licked it. A caramelized sweetness bloomed on his tongue. "My fangs," he whispered. "They still exist." Lucy grinned. Baby steps. Over the next week, Lucy enrolled him in garlic exposure therapy. Day 1, he had to stand in the same room as a basket of garlic breadsticks. Day 2, he had to butter one. Day 3, he tasted a single breadcrumb. Each victory unlocked a new badge on Lucy's chart: Clove Cadet, Aromatic Apprentice, Grand Poobah of Pungency. But success bred hubris. Flush with confidence, Dmitri attempted to flumbliss minced raw garlic in a cognac bath without protective gear. The resulting allicin plume punched him in the nostrils with the force of a tabloid headline. He reflexively vaporized into mist, recondensed in the broom closet, and spent an hour sneezing actual bats, into a dustpan. Lucy found him covered in feathers. "Where'd the bats get feathers?" she asked. "They were frightened pigeons," he replied miserably. Back to basics. Meanwhile, word of Dmitri's garlic quest reached Marco Lupini, a rival chef with a salt and pepper goatee and the ego of 3 celebrity judges stacked in a trench coat. Marco, a werewolf who proudly claimed his palate was refined by the full moon, had already posted his gala submission on Bite Talk garlic glazed moon howl ribs, featuring a slow-cooked sauce and a gratuitous amount of chest thumping. Marco cornered Dimitri in the walk-in freezer. Rumor says you're dabbling in garlic, blood vessel. Bold move for someone whose digestive tract is mostly myth. Dimitri flashed a polite smile while silently counting Marco's pulse point. Careful, he purred. I might garnish my dish with wolfbane. Marco barked a laugh and sauntered off, purposely flicking open a container of raw garlic confit so its aroma swirled around the confined space. Dimitri forced himself to stay put, breathing through his mouth, reciting the vampire alphabet backward. It's the regular alphabet, but whispered dramatically. You okay? Asked the freezer's resident poltergeist, Gus, handing him an ectoplasmic tissue. I will be, Dimitri wheezed, once I wipe that smug grin off his snout. With the gala only a fortnight away, Dimitri assembled a midnight task force. Lucy, Gus the poltergeist, he did excellent mise en place, knives pass right through, yet chopped perfectly, and Mildred, Nocturnelle's 600-year-old pastry chef who claimed she once dated Dracula but left when he kept sticking his beak in my strudel recipes. They brainstormed in the staff lounge over mugs of tomato juice latte. What garlic dish could dazzle the judges, outshine Marco, and, critically, not immolate Dimitri? Mildred tapped her whisk against the table. Give 'em contrast, darlin'. Sweet and savory, life and death, yin-yang on a plate. Lucy nodded. Science agrees. Taste buds love a dopamine roller coaster. Gus suggested ectoplasmic foam, but everyone pretended not to hear, Dimitri pondered. In life, back when he had a pulse, he'd been a traveling musician in Tuscany. He remembered autumn festivals where villagers roasted whole chickens stuffed with 50 cloves of garlic until the meat melted off the bone. What if he recreated that memory, elevated it, so every bite told a story? Picture this, Dimitri said. Black garlic and blood orange stuffed night fowl, served with garlic-infused polenta croquettes, finished with a drizzle of candied garlic caramel. He clutched his chest. It's nostalgia meets necromancy. Lucy grabbed a marker and scrawled across the whiteboard. Garlic, triptych of transcendence. Mildred whistled. Long title, but I'd eat it. Practice began at once. Gus floated cutting boards to Lucy. Mildred steeped garlic cloves in vampire-proof butter. Churned under moonlight, Dimitri tackled the stuffing, blending black garlic, blood orange zest, rosemary, and a suspiciously crimson reduction he labeled Private Reserve. The first trial run tasted like heaven if heaven wore fishnet stockings and played jazz bass. Yet halfway through plating, Dimitri's wrist brushed a dollop of raw garlic purr. Hiss. Smoke. He dropped the spoon, yelped, and dove into an ice bath. Lucy sighed, handing him oven mitts. We're so close. Protective clothing from now on. Dimitri surfaced, icicles clinging to his hair. Not very heroic, but fine. They adjusted the recipe, caramelizing every trace of garlic to dampen the raw sting. Gloves, goggles, and a neckerchief soaked in rosewater became Dimitri's uniform. Small price to pay for greatness. Sabotage struck 3 nights before the gala. Dimitri entered the kitchen to discover his prized black garlic stash missing, replaced by a ransom note shaped like a chew toy. Garlic's gone, howl if you need it back, Mel-El. He roared, an impressive sound effect given his lungs hadn't worked since 1432. Lucy cracked her knuckles. We break into Marco's station, liberate the cloves, and maybe short-sheet his wolf pit. Gus the poltergeist volunteered to scout walls were more suggestion than barrier. 5 minutes later, Gus returned with intel. Marco had hidden Dimitri's garlic in a vacuum-sealed pouch inside a silver dog bowl. Too risky to retrieve, Gus moaned. He's rehearsing his plating routine shirtless. Lots of flexing. Mildred raised an eyebrow. Is that part of the judging? Sadly, yes, Dimitri said. Showmanship counts for 10%. Plan C, acquire new black garlic. Trouble was, black garlic required at least 3 weeks of fermentation at precise humidity. They had 72 hours. Lucy paced. We can cheat time by using a pressure chamber, but we don't own one. Dimitri's eyes gleamed. We do have a coffin. A minute later, they hauled Dimitri's mahogany coffin into the prep area and converted it into a garlic sauna. Temperature probe, sous vide heater, and a humidifier borrowed from the reptile house at the zoo. They tossed in fresh bulbs, sealed the lid, and cranked the controls. "Promise me you'll sanitize that before I sleep in it again," Dimitri said. Mildred patted his shoulder. "Honey, after this, you'll sleep on silk sheets stuffed with accolades." The improvised fermentation chamber worked shockingly well. By Gala Eve, they had ebony-hued cloves oozing sweet syrup. Dimitri sniffed one. No adverse reaction. Progress. At sundown on the night of the competition, the crew rolled their equipment into the grand ballroom of the Eternal Epicurean Gala, an opulent space draped in velvet and lit by chandeliers shaped like inverted garlic bulbs, cruel but aesthetically pleasing. Contestants ranged from ghouls and gremlins to celebrity chefs with suspiciously rosy cheeks. Vampire groupies, obviously. At the judges' table sat Madame Arteria, vampire countess and restaurant critic whose reviews included helpful blood pairing notes, Chef Basilisk, a reptilian gourmand who petrified undercooked dishes with a single glare, Pastor Parsnip, a mortal priest famous for exorcising bland intrias. Dimitri's station neighbored Marco's. The werewolf greeted him with a fangy grin. "Break a fang, Dimitri? Oh wait, you already did during your little sneeze bat incident." Dimitri bowed. "May your meat never curdle, Marco." He smiled sweetly, revealing extra sharp incisors. The clock struck midnight. Ovens roared to life. Dimitri moved with preternatural grace, marinating nightfowl, a heritage chicken that only crowed at dusk, in sanguine reduction, sautéing purple garlic confit until it glimmered like amethyst, whisking polenta with roasted garlic cream. Lucy handled the caramel, reducing sugar, garlic essence, and a dash of holy water, deconsecrated via bureaucratic loophole, until it coated the back of a silver spoon. Gus, invisible to most but industrious, arranged plates in symmetrical rows. Mildred torched the skin of each bird for crispy perfection, cackling as Marco side-aimed the spectacle. He was busy blow-drying his ribs with a fan to make the glaze glisten on camera. The scent in the ballroom was intense. A tornado of garlic, roasted, raw, fermented, fried, pickled, smoked, and, in one corner, bubblegummed. Someone misread the brief. Contestants wielded gas masks, some audience members sprouted actual tears. Yet Dimitri felt calm, even invigorated. The once terrifying aroma whispered possibilities rather than threats. Then disaster called collects. When Dimitri lifted the cloche off his coffin sauna to retrieve backup black garlic for garnish, he discovered an empty cavity. Another ransom note. "Fetching for me, fetchless for you." Mellow. Marco had struck again, mid-cook, under the judges' very noses. Dimitri's nostrils flared. But panic would not serve the dish. He peered at his nearly finished plates, beautiful, yet lacking the final flourish that tied the triptych concept together. Lucy hissed, "We can't present incomplete." Gus wailed like an ambulance siren. Mildred, however, smacked her rolling pin on the counter. "We improvise, Sugar Plum." She pointed to a saucepan where garlic skins, discarded after peeling, simmered in butter for an infusion. "Strain crisp candy, make chips, crunchy textural element, even better than cloves." Dimitri's eyes sparkled. They strained the golden butter, tossed the tender skins in powdered sugar and chili, and flash-fried them until they curled into bronze petals. He sprinkled these atop each plate like edible confetti. Plating complete with 30 seconds to spare, Dimitri stepped back, chest heaving though he didn't need oxygen. Time. Judges approached Marco first. He theatrically flexed his deltoids while presenting garlic-glazed moonhow ribs with sides of howlin' mash and lunar slaw. The ribs glistened. The aroma sang baritone. Judge Basilisk tasted, nodding in reptilian satisfaction. Pastor Parsnip scribbled notes. Madame Arteria dabbed her lips politely. Then they reached Dimitri. He cleared his throat. "Esteemed judges, I present the garlic triptych of transcendence. black garlic and blood orange stuffed night fowl on garlic-infused polenta croquettes, crowned with candied garlic skin petals and a drizzle of garlic caramel. Hushed. Madame Arteria leaned in, inhaling. Intriguing. I detect citrus, copper, and childhood memories? Pastor Parsnip forked a croquette, eyes fluttering as the creamy interior met caramel crunch. My goodness, this is a hymn. Chef Basilisk bit into the bird. Dmitri held undead breath. If underseasoned, the basilisk glare could fossilize an entire lineage. But instead, green eyes widened, scales shimmering. Flavor balanced. Garlic presence powerful, yet harmonious. At that moment, Marco's smug veneer cracked. He sniffed the air, sniffed again, and sneezed violently. Werewolves are sensitive to spicy aerosols. Chilled garlic skin dust wafted from Dimitri's station into Marco's ribs, overwhelming the glaze. The judges returned to Marco for a second bite, coughed, and reached for palate cleansers. Lights dimmed. Spotlights focused on the podium. The head of the Culinary Council, an elderly ghoul with colanders for epaulets, stepped up. In third place, he intoned, for daring yet slightly combustible flavors, the bubblegum garlic ghouls. Applause erupted. Second place, he continued, for physically impressive showmanship and meaty ambition, Chef Marco Lupini. Marco attempted applause push-ups but tripped over his ego. And in first place, the ghoul announced, fangs gleaming for transforming fear into fetid flavor, we award the Golden Cloche to Chef Dmitri Bloodvessel. Confetti cannons blasted dehydrated parsley into the air. Dimitri's knees buckled. Lucy whooped. Mildred kissed him on both cheeks, leaving flower prints. Gus popped invisible champagne, dousing unsuspecting spectators in spectral bubbles. As Dmitri mounted the podium, Marco slunk away, tail literal and figure to bubble, his legs. Dmitri accepted the cloche, its surface reflecting his almost visible outline. A hush fell as he began his speech. Centuries ago, he said, voice resonant, I feared garlic the way mortals fear taxes. But tonight proves that facing one's greatest terror can unlock the sweetest victories, and tastiest, judging by Pastor Parsnip's seconds. Laughter rippled through the hall. I share this award with my brilliant team. Lucy Caraway, who turned science into sorcery, Mildred, whose wisdom rose like perfect dough, and Gus, whose ghostly hands kept us afloat. Together we proved that garlic doesn't kill vampires, at least not the determined ones. He raised the cloche. May our kitchens be ever aromatic, our fears ever sautéed, and our rivals politely seasoned. The ballroom cheered. Flash bulbs popped. Somewhere a bat sneezed approvingly. Later that night, Dmitri sat on the balcony overlooking the city's Gothic skyline. He twirled a candied garlic petal between his fingers, marveling at its gentle crunch. Lucy joined him, handing over a glass of chilled B positive. To victory, she said, clinking her water bottle. Indeed, he replied, sipping. But you realize what this means. Next year I'll have to defend the title. Lucy shrugged. What's the new theme? Dmitri unfolded the teaser flyer delivered with his trophy. His eyes widened. Sun-dried tomatoes. They stared at each other. Lucy smirked. Get your SPF 5000 ready. Dmitri sighed, then grinned, fangs glinting in moonlight. Challenge accepted. After all, I've already got the coffin sauna.